Hi, I'm Stewart Spinks and welcome to episode 356 of my podcast, Beekeeping Short and Sweet. With so many Varroa mite treatments out there, it can be quite confusing, and not just for the beginner beekeeper. Today, I'll review a few of the other treatments available and hint about the importance of an integrated pest management system for beekeepers that personally I would rename. Beekeeping Short and Sweet, a beekeeping podcast for the inquisitive beekeeper with a short attention span. A beekeeper, in fact, just like me. This week's podcast is brought to you, in part, by High Five Multi-Guard. So,
when you need a little peace of mind that your bees are safe from dangers of all kind, pesticides, hornets, wasps and mice are no match for High Five. The High Five Multi-Guard is the best one in town. Keeps your bees safe all year round. The ultimate solution has been found. It's High Five.
The High Five Multi-Guard fits nearly all beehives and makes beekeeping much easier. High Five.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast, and it's been an exciting week as we bring back the honey and start making up containers of cut comb and extract our summer crop of honey, despite it being considerably down on where I would like to have seen it. We brought back around 50 or so supers, some reassuringly heavy, others, well, empty, I guess you would describe them as. Not so pleased about that, but we can only do what we can to get the bees ready for the summer nectar flow and then kind of sit back and see what happens. I know some of you will be heading off to the heather moors, so it's not all finished yet for you, and I wish you all the good fortune in the world in getting a fantastic heather honey crop this year. We, unfortunately, haven't been able to secure a return visit to our previous location on the North York Moors, so it's back to the drawing board, or rather map, and try to find someone else who'll allow us to place our hives on their land for next year. I guess it does give me time to take good care of our colonies and the nukes that we've been raising this spring and summer, a chance to settle them, equalise them, and get treatments in well ahead of where we may have done in previous years. Remember, colonies will very soon be producing what we term winter bees, adult workers with an increased amount of fat bodies within them to help them navigate the colder autumn and winter months. Reducing the Varroa population in these nukes will absolutely help the nukes survive through to next spring, which currently, let's face it, seems a long way off. Just thinking back to the summer honey crop, we've been able to produce some cracking cut comb honey once again this year, and that's really pleasing. Interestingly, the section squares have all failed this year, and I believe it's due to the very hot and dry weather that we had at the end of June and into the early part of July. Colonies were set up to have the largest populations for early July, and in fact I think the main summer flow may have been a couple of weeks early. That's all it takes to reduce the amount of honey stored. Emerging adults in the first couple of weeks of July missing out on that peak nectar flow. It is what it is, of course, and we cut our cloth accordingly, as they say. Especially as I've just been hit by a double aircon failure. It's unbelievable, really. I got back from my trip to see my youngest daughter Beth and discovered the newer truck air conditioning had failed. This needed a replacement compressor and drive belt. Then, last week, the old truck, my good old reliable workhorse, suffered exactly the same problem. Talk about an expensive month, especially as I'd just had 2 replacement front tyres fitted on her as well. It's all part of what we need in order to do our job safely. So I'm not complaining, just a little peeved at it all happening so soon, especially with the MOT due next week. Anyway, let's move on before I start crying. Last week, I spoke about the treatments that we're using this year and touched on some others that I've used. I wanted to finish off that topic this week and talk a little bit about the other Varroa treatments that I've used, my thoughts on them, and also where you can go to find all the relevant information on every authorised treatment currently available here in Great Britain. I would say the UK, but if you search the VMD website for UK authorised treatments, it doesn't list any, at least it didn't for me. Talking of which, the Veterinary Medicines Directorate is the government agency that manages and authorises all treatments for a huge range of animals, including our honeybees, and they have a very useful website that you can access to get all of the relevant information about any product that you want to use. Let me talk you through how to get there. The website address is vmd.defra.gov.uk. I'll add a link in the podcast notes for you to access if you're interested, so don't worry about writing it down. It can seem quite daunting to get to the honeybee information when you first arrive at this website, but actually, once you've learned how to navigate it, it becomes really quick and easy to use. So here's my guide to using the VMD website to get to the honeybee authorised treatments. Go to the website, vmd.defra.gov.uk, then click on the Product Information Database at the top of the page. Then hit the big green button that says Start Now. You're then taken to a page that looks quite complex, but actually all you need to do is look along the blue row of text somewhere near the top that has the alphabet in it and click on the very end link that says Search. Now you have an easier page to deal with because all you have to do is look for the big box that lists species and scroll down until you see honeybees. Click on the honeybees and it will be highlighted in blue. If you want to reduce the list further, go to the bottom box that says Territory and select your appropriate area. This will take out any duplicates as it lists Great Britain, Northern Ireland and United Kingdom. Then at the bottom of the page, click on the green box that says Run Search. You should end up with a list of 12 different products with a couple duplicated because of pack size or type differences, solution instead of powder, for instance, with Apibioxal. Out of the list, I'm going to give you my views on the products I've tried in recent years. It's not my style to give thoughts on something that I've never tried before, so the list includes Apibioxal, twice, Apiguard Gel, Thymovar, Apistan, Apitraz, Apivar, Danny's Bienenvol, maybe, Danny's Bienenvol powder and solution, Formic Pro, Oxyvar, Oxy-B, Thymovar, and finally Varromed twice. Of those, I haven't used Danny's or Oxyvar or Varromed, so I won't go into details about these. All the others have at some point been part of my toolkit in tackling the Varroa mite populations within our honeybee colonies. Also, I only use the oxalic acid-based products over the autumn and winter period when we're trying to find that all-important broodless period, so all of these products can be dealt with another time. Now we have a much more manageable reduced list. Apiguard Gel, Thymovar, Apistan, Apitraz, Apivar, Formic Pro and Thymovar. Of these, I've already covered Apivar, Apilifevar and Apiguard last week, so the list gets smaller and we're left with just 4 other treatments: Apistan, Apitraz, Formic Pro and Thymovar. Of these, Apitraz is basically the same as Apivar, but do take a look at it on the VMD website if you're interested in this one. and only 3 treatments remain: Apistan, Formic Pro and Thymovar. Apistan then is an interesting one, first authorised way back in 1998 and marketed by Vita. I think this was the very first Varroa treatment I ever used. In a similar way to the Amitraz products, it uses a suspended strip between frames to administer the active ingredient, which in this product is called tau fluvalinate. This is probably the one product out there that comes with a warning, as far as I'm aware, of the risk of Varroa mites building up resistance to the active ingredient. And so you do need to be mindful of this and vary the type of treatments that you're using over the course of a few seasons. But actually, that applies sensibly to all treatments in my view. Why give the Varroa a chance to develop resistance, either known or unknown, when there are several products available to us to use? Apistan strips are easy to use and effective, so use them as part of your toolkit. The strips come in a pack of 10 and 2 strips are used per hive. They tear off easily and have a cutout section, they call them wings, to allow them to be suspended. In a full-sized, well-populated hive, the strips are placed between frames 3 and 4 and 7 and 8. Nukes only need 1 strip, and the treatment period is 6 to 8 weeks, regardless of whether you use 1 strip or 2. This comes with a recommendation that 6 weeks is the minimum period of time. Given the risk of Varroa developing resistance, the strips really mustn't be left in the hive for more than 8 weeks. As with all current treatments, Apistan must not be used during the honey flow. Interestingly, tau fluvalinate is described in the text as a lipophilic compound and accumulates in wax over repeated use, so it will build up in any wax within your brood nest. I don't think this is of any real concern for most beekeepers, because we replace brood frames on a regular basis, don't we? And the Apistan isn't used more than once in any 4 or 5 year rotation for me anyway, so all the frames will have been replaced well before then. Formic Pro is the next on the list, and as the name suggests, uses formic acid as the active ingredient. Those of you who've listened regularly to my podcast will know I'm not a huge fan of this product. I've used it and my bees absolutely hate it. The only thing that works really well about the treatment is that it only takes 7 days for a complete cycle, so it's a short, sharp shock to the colony and the Varroa. I've no doubt it is effective, but for me it's too harsh and I won't use it unless I absolutely have to. This is only likely if I find a strong colony being overrun by Varroa, and then at that point I'm a reluctant user. So it's a strong formic acid treatment delivered using 2 strips that lay on top of the brood frames. They're kind of pads. It's simple to administer, and after a week you can remove those gel pads and hopefully your colony has survived. Look, I know that sounds a bit dramatic, but listen to what the VMD website literature says on what it describes as the package leaflet. Adverse reactions. Insufficient ventilation, high ambient temperatures and insufficient hive volume have been identified as particular risk factors for build-up of formic acid concentrations beyond easily tolerated levels. Specific requirements of the contraindications and special warnings section should be carefully observed, as there is an increased risk of adverse events if these are not followed. In uncommon cases, increased adult bee mortality, brood mortality, and or queen loss have been observed. More so in smaller cavity hive designs or where entrance reducers are not removed prior to use. Secondary signs include bees absconding, reduced reproduction, and or total colony loss have been noted in consequence. Moribund bees, e.g. those suffering from a viral infection or a high mite infestation, are more susceptible to toxic effects. Formic acid will initially disturb colony activities and may, within 1 day of application, result in queen rejection, triggering queen supersedure activities in rare cases. Colonies are expected to expand the cluster as part of controlling vapour concentration during the first 3 days of treatment. Bidding behaviour may be observed in very rare cases. So that's the statement. It's quite dramatic, and in my own apiaries I've lost queens, and in one case I've lost an entire colony. This is not a treatment for nukes or small colonies. They simply can't ventilate the hives sufficiently. You may also see a brood break or larvae and open brood being removed. To give some balance though, I know beekeepers who use this treatment and love using this treatment. The time frame works for them, and larger colonies are able to manage the formic acid vapour. We have used it successfully, but it's a last resort for me. Let's move on to our final treatment, Thymovar. Have you worked out the active ingredient yet? Yep, it's thymol. This treatment is identified by the yellow sponge that is impregnated with the thymol. The treatment is a 2-stage 3 or 4 week treatment, meaning the first pads are put on for 3 or 4 weeks and then replaced with fresh pads for another 3 or 4 weeks. Once again, not to be used during a honey flow. So remove supers at the end of the season, as with all the other treatments, and then add that treatment. Depending on the size and type of the hive, positioning the pads can vary, but actually they simply sit on top of the frames towards the edge of the brood nest area, so it's pretty straightforward really. As with other thymol-based products, although strong smelling when you first open the packet, there isn't the dramatic reaction as you might get, as you will get with the Formic Pro, so it's less fraught, but obviously takes up to 8 weeks once more. And that's all of the treatments that I've used to date. There's plenty there to choose from, and I would say if you have a Varroa population to deal with and you want to choose a treatment, there's something to use for all beekeepers. These treatments all fall within something we'd call an Integrated Pest Management program. It's a way of saying that we use treatments alongside other methods, usually mechanical, to keep the Varroa population under control. There are a lot of options out there to include in your routine, but don't just think of it as a Varroa control program. It's much more than that. Personally, I would rename it an Integrated Health Management program. The honeybee colony being the primary focus of what and why we do things in the apiary. I'm going to defer this topic to next week. It's vitally important for beekeepers everywhere, particularly beginner beekeepers, to keep their honeybees as healthy as they possibly can for several reasons, and I don't want to reduce this topic down to just a couple of minutes of chat. Well, that's it for this week. For all of you who haven't yet signed up to my Patreon page, I, together with Steph, have been creating beekeeping content for many years now. And if you're looking for some straightforward, down-to-earth tips and techniques, help and advice, then do take a look at my Patreon page. We have over 1,600 individual beekeeping posts, videos and podcasts filled with useful and timely help and advice. My approach is pragmatic and calm, sometimes entertaining, but always with help and support for beekeepers at the heart of what I do. I keep my videos short and concise wherever possible, no waffle, no flannel, just honest beekeeping advice from years of keeping bees. Take a look and join me for the new 2025 beekeeping season. It'll cost you less than a jar of honey. Head over to Google and search for Patreon and the Norfolk Honey Company.